Welcome to Saxon Math Course 3, Lesson 14, Evaluation and Solving Equations by Inspection. Our objectives for this lesson: after this lesson you should be able to evaluate expressions by substituting numbers in place of variables, and solve simple equations by inspection. Some review from Lesson 13. We talked about adding and subtracting fractions. Remember, if the fractions have a common denominator, all you have to do is add or subtract the numerators, and then your answer has the same denominator as the two fractions you started with. If they don't have common denominators, you need to rewrite equivalent fractions that do have common denominators before you can add or subtract the fractions. We also did a little bit of adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Remember to be careful when you're borrowing or carrying with mixed numbers, because when you borrow, you're not going to add 10 like you do with regular subtraction. You're going to add whatever your denominator is to the numerator. So today we're talking about first evaluating an expression. So when we're missing a number, so far in math we've used a letter, also called a variable, to represent that number. So for example, 4s means 4 times the missing number s. S is our variable. That's the number that can change. The other number, 4, that we are given is called a constant. That's always going to be the same number. It's always going to be 4, no matter what we put in for s. So we always have a constant and a variable. To evaluate an expression, all we're going to do is replace the variable or variables with the given numbers. So you'll be given an equation, and they will give you the numbers to plug in for the letters in order to come up with an answer. Here's an example of that. A formula for the perimeter of a rectangle is P for perimeter equals 2 times L for length plus 2 times W for width. Find P when L is 15 centimeters and W is 12 centimeters. So all we do is put those numbers in for those letters. So instead of being P equals 2L plus 2W, now we have P equals 2 times 15 plus 2 times 12. And when you do those multiplications, you get 30 and 24. So 30 plus 24 is really what we need to do. So our perimeter is 54 centimeters. That's evaluating an expression. They'll usually give you the numbers to use, so it's pretty simple. The other thing we're doing today is solving equations by inspection. So equations are any mathematical statements that have an equal sign. A lot of these equations we can solve just by looking at them and solving them in our head. And when we keep saying solving, a solution to an equation is a number that you use for the missing number, the variable that makes the equation true. So here's an example of us doing this. If a taxi company charges a $2 flat fee plus $3 per mile, which we'll use the letter M for how many miles there are, then the cost, total cost, which we'll use C, in dollars of a taxi ride is shown by this formula. 3, so that's the $3 per mile, so 3 times M, number of miles, plus the $2 flat fee equals C, our total cost. So suppose that the cost of a taxi ride is $20. Find the length of the taxi ride by solving the equation. Now it's the same equation, but now we know C, the total cost, is 20. So 3M plus 2 equals 20. If I just look at this equation, I know 3M, 3 times M, has to equal 18 because I'm adding 2 to that answer and my total is 20. So right away I know 3 times M has to be 18. So in my head I can divide 18 divided by 3. It's a math fact. I know 18 divided by 3 is 6. That means the taxi ride was 6 miles long. That's all for your lesson today. Do your practice problems, write down any questions, and we'll talk about them next time in class. See you in lesson 15.